Thanks for tuning in. As you know, I don't post very often, but when I've got something to say, I just it went through my head this morning. I read a post about the attack of the young girls in Southport, and unfortunately the three fatalities that occurred there. Um, and what got to me was the comments made by councillors and MPs and so on in response to the riots that have been created. And apparently, according to the media, these are all over the country now. So not only in Southport, but down further south and Manchester and various other places, people are taken to the streets. The story is left, leaves you with the impression that this has been caused by the stabbing as a result of some of the illegal immigrants that have come to this country. Now, for a kick-off, let me get absolutely straight. I never condone initiating violence in any shape or form. We don't need it, and I would love to be strong enough to go pona pona on all of these things. Um, but you really need to be strong on that, and compassion seems to be in short supply. But what gets me about this is, first of all, apparently, and we can only go by what the media puts forward because, well, I wasn't there, I didn't see it happen. And we're getting so many stories from the media that are just fabricated. So we really don't know exactly what happened, but the story goes that it was a lad of 17, therefore his name can't be released to the media. He's now been arrested. I see a report this morning that says he's been arrested. So none of his details can be released. So the story that we get about him being um, a racist attack of some sort is purely, well, I'm not saying it's purely media hype. There may well be some foundation to it, but the rest of us just don't know. We're having to go on what the media states. But the bit that got me today, that made me to, that made me angry, was the attitude of the pseudo politicians and their condemnation of the people who are taken to the streets. And I mean, when I first read about this attack, I was obviously sickened, like everybody else in the country was sickened that it wasn't a personal thing because there were so many people involved. What was it, a dozen people got stabbed, including two adults who tried to protect the children. But the children, 9, 10, 11 years old, can't be held accountable for anything else. So it, 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 it if this story is correct, then it appears that it was random, because you couldn't say that all of these children were to blame for anything that could make this young lad turn like this. And it took me back to the Dunblane massacre. And at the time of that, I was actually working with children's charity, and all the area managers had been gathered in the headquarters in Glasgow that Friday morning, as we often were, for an area managers team meeting. And when we got there, of course, everybody was sitting. There was a deathly silence. Working with children's charities at the time, it struck us, and it was only until recently I discovered what really happened there. But this attack, every time there's something like this, it takes you back. So it really hits hard. But that besides, because I don't suppose we'll ever hear the true story, it's the condemnation of the politicians and pseudo-politicians, the parsimonious, patronising comments about people taken to the streets against these innocent asylum seekers. As I say, I don't know the connection for true, but hang on a minute. all of these people are not asylum seekers. They're illegal immigrants. So they're not innocent. They're illegals. And until their case has been proven, they've come into this country through an unacceptable illegal route. They haven't applied for asylum through a proper route. And the other thing that gets me is that, well, for obviously the politicians are allowing this to happen, um, and in mass numbers. The new government, I mean, only something like 60% of people voted. Only a third of them voted for this particular government, which means that only about 20%, a fifth of people, voted for the actions that they're taking, and didn't even vote for the actions they're taking, because the manifesto that they spouted prior to becoming elected has no bearing on what they're doing now. Oh, here I am getting angry. I shouldn't get angry. I know I shouldn't get angry. I should be stronger than that. But I just feel that the state, what's happening in the health service, what's happening in the police, and what's being spouted forth by politicians at various levels of government is being done just to press people's buttons. It's been done to push them into this. And now they're taken to the streets and they're being condemned by all these so-called politicians. Um, and what these people forget is that the ordinary people in this country have got no voice left. When only 20% of people have voted in the actions, well, not even the actions, but voted in the people who are now taking weird actions as government, the people in general population have no voice. They can't use the media because the media is wholeheartedly controlled. I don't know if this video will even get out, but the media is wholeheartedly controlled um, by the politicians. The narrative is what apparently there's only two sources that all the media are getting their information from, and um, at the end of the day, the second company is actually owned by the first company. So really, it's only one source. They're all being fed the same line, each and every one of them. And how often do you open your phone? Oh, 5 things you need to know this morning. Need to know? Do I really need to know? We've been spouted forth all this information. So the people, there's no such thing as investigative journalism anymore, except on the hidden channels. And you really need to look for them. And unfortunately, I think the hidden channels are missing the people who need to know, because people who need to know are not looking there. It's only people like us that are looking there. So these politicians, pseudo politicians at various levels, councillors, MPs, whatever, who are all being patronising and decrying the action that's been taken on the streets, calling people like Tony Robinson terrorists. You're only a terrorist if you go against a country. You're not speaking against a country, you're speaking against actions by politicians who are lining their pockets because of their actions. When did the Labour Party have anybody elected into the top? They maybe get there after they've been Prime Minister, but what are we anymore? We're not looking after the people anymore. We're looking after their interests. And then they condemn people when people get angry. They have no other voice. I don't want to see fighting in the streets. I definitely don't. And when light workers, and I can't class myself in there, but the people in the know, the people who know that this is a narrative, who's this a story, I don't even know if these riots are real. I don't even know if Israel actually bombed Lebanon. I don't know if these things happened. But I do feel that the narrative is building and building and building to make the general population really angry and to turn them out on the streets where, like Tony Robinson, they can be arrested as terrorists. No, they're just angry people with no other voice. I've gone on too long today. Sorry about that. I've rambled and I've got anger. Okay. Shouldn't have had 2 cups of coffee. I should only had one. I'll go and take some chamomile tea. That might work. Anyway, the important thing is that we try really hard to love while we live and be happy. And if we can all manage that, even to our neighbour, and it's not always easy, um, then we'll be doing something. Help those you can and forgive those you can't, maybe. But anyway, live, love, and be happy. And thanks for tuning in. If this helps the discussion elsewhere, feel free to pass it on. Um, Blessings to you all.